Good morning. This is April 23rd, I believe. That's what I have written down. And this is 6th and 7th period, Algebra 1. Let me get my stuff set up and we'll get started. It'll be a miracle today if this works because my internet has been sketchy this morning. Oh, I see Andrew and Brian and Hunter. Hey, Jillian. Algebra 2 is going to be today at, I believe it's 2:30. All right. Today we are going to be factoring trinomials. Remember, a trinomial has 3 terms. And so all of these problems are going to have 3 terms. They're going to be in this form. This is called standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. That means that we're going to have some number with x squared, some number with x, and then just a constant number out here. But our a in all these problems today, the number in the very front, is going to be 1, which makes these really easy to do today. But our goal is to factor trinomials that have a leading coefficient of 1, and that will make more sense to you once we get started with the problems. Hey, Blake. All right. Before we get started on factoring, now remember, we factored, the last thing we did was factor using the GCF. And so you learned when we started factoring using the GCF that factoring just means that you're showing what to multiply together to get the answer. Like in all these problems, you're given the answer, and you've got to tell what the problem was. That's what factoring basically is. Before we factor, factoring and what we're doing with trinomials involves doing the FOIL method backwards. And so we need to review the FOIL method. Remember, we worked with this. This was probably one of the last tests that we took at school. Was whenever we learned how to use the FOIL method, or either some of you like to use the distributive property. But I'm gonna review with the FOIL method. FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. And we have 3 review problems here, and the reason we're doing this is I want you to kind of make a connection with multiplying with the FOIL method and then what our actual lesson is, which is factoring. So in this review, you don't have to write anything down. If you've been writing notes down as we go, you can just kind of sit back and watch this and then make the connection that we're going to do with our examples in factoring. There's another Blake. Hey, Blake. All right, first of all, in this first problem, we have x plus 3 times x plus 6. Now, remember, FOIL method is first, outside, inside, last. So we're going to multiply the first terms together, x times x, which is x to the second. And then we're going to multiply the outside terms together. And remember, the outside terms is this first one, the ones that are furthest apart from each other, the first one and the last one. X times 6, which is 6x. And then we multiply the insides together, and that's these two right in the middle, 3 times x, which is 3x. And then we multiply, L stands for last, so we multiply the last terms together, the 3 times the 6, which is 18. And remember, the outside and inside terms, these two terms in the middle, combined together. 6x plus 3x is 9x. So you get x squared plus 9x plus 18. Now, before I show you the connection that I want you to make, I'm just going to go ahead and work through these other two problems with the FOIL method. Let me circle this one. All right, in the second problem, using the FOIL method, x times x is x to the second. Do the outsides together. Remember, take the sign in front of the number, so that's going to be a minus 5x. And then multiply the insides and take the sign in front of the 2, so that's going to be a minus 2x. And then multiply these last two numbers together, negative 2 times negative 5, which is a positive 10. And these two terms in the middle, both are negative, so we're going to add those, and you get x to the second minus 7x plus 10, and that is our answer. Hopefully y'all remember doing this. Like I said, I believe my brain is such a blur from being out so long, but I think this was one of the last things that we did before we got out. And here's this last problem, x plus 8 times x minus 2. And we're going to multiply the first terms together, x times x, which is x to the second. Multiply the out, 8 times x, and you get 8x. And multiply the last terms together, 8 times negative 2, which is negative 16. Combine the two in the middle. Now this one's a minus and this one's a plus, which means you actually have to subtract those. And you get x to the second plus, use the sign of the larger number, so it's plus 6x and minus 16. Alright, so now what I want you to do is look at those three answers. They're all trinomials, right? Also, I want you to look at the original problem, look at these last two numbers, 3 and 6, and then look at that middle term, 9x, and that last term, 18. Think about those numbers, 3 and 6, and then look at 9x and 18. All right, now move over to this next problem and look at this trinomial. Look at these last two numbers, negative 2 and negative 5. And then look at this middle number and this last number, negative 7 and positive 10. Just think about that for a minute. Then look at this third problem, positive 8, negative 2, these numbers at the end. And then look at these numbers in our answer, 6x and negative 16. Think about it for a minute and see if you see a pattern of what this middle number is and what this last number is always. Because what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be given these trinomials, and we've got to go backwards and tell what the two parentheses were multiplied together to give us this. If you'll notice, 3 plus 6 is 9, and 3 times 6 is 18. Over here, negative 2 plus negative 5 is negative 7, and negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. And then this last one, 8 times negative 2 is negative 16, and 8 plus negative 2 is 6. So that's going to give you some type of little clue on how we get our answers in our lesson today. Which now we're moving on to the new lesson, which is factor. It would be good for you to copy some of these problems down so you'll have them as examples when you're doing your IXL, and you won't have to look back at the video. Hey, Gabby. I'm so excited. 5 people. I think that's the most I've ever had watching. There's excitement in the air. All right. So, factoring remembers what we're doing. Here's example 1. And it says to factor x squared plus 7x plus 12. Now remember, the last thing we did was factor out a GCF, which the GCF is always going to be your starting point with factoring. you always want to look to see if all your terms have anything that you can pull out front of a parentheses, like we learned how to factor, because it makes your problems smaller and easier. None of these are going to have a GCF, so you don't have to worry about that in any of these. In the future lessons that we do, you will have to pull out a GCF first and then go from there. Okay, on this example 1, here's our trinomial, x squared plus 7x plus 12. That is the problem, but it's really the answer, and we want to know what the original binomials were to multiply by. So we're doing the FOIL method backwards. In all of these that we do where the number in front is missing, there's just a 1 there, which is what this lesson is, you're always just going to take this letter and split it apart and put 1 here and 1 here, because this first times first has to equal x squared. So you're going to put an x and an x. All right, next, we want to jump all the way down to the last term, 12. And then we want to look at its sign. It's a positive 12. And if it's a positive 12, we know that the last times the last has to equal that last term in the trinomial. And we know when we multiply two things together to get a positive answer, both of the signs in front of the numbers have to be the same. They're going to either have to both be negative or both be positive to get a positive last term. And then you just look to see what it is in the middle. So if it's a positive, they're going to both be plus right here. Now you want to think of what factors of 12 will add up to be 7. Because remember when I was showing you up here, when you multiply the last numbers together to get that last term, they also add together to get that middle term. So you're looking for the factors of 12 to go here that will add up to be 7. Now, this one is pretty easy to know without doing any work, but I'm just going to show you, if you couldn't think of anything that would add up to be 7, come over here to the side and just list that last number and put the factors of it side by side, like 1 times 12 and 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. Just list the factors like that, and then you can look at them and see which ones add up to be 7. And it's 3 and 4. So you would just put plus 3 and plus 4. And that's it. You factored it. Because x times x is x to the second. The last, 3 times 4 is equal to 12. And then the outsides and insides, if you were to do the outsides plus the insides, 4x plus 3x. And all you really have to worry about is finding the factors of this last number that will add up to be this middle number. And that's what the whole lesson's about. So this is pretty easy. Let's move on to example 2. And after example 2, then I'll stop for a minute and let y'all ask me any questions if you have any. All right, so our problem is n to the second plus 10n plus 24. So this is our trinomial. It says factor. So we're going to put 2 parentheses down. Remember, whatever this letter is, we're going to put one of those in each place in the front of our parentheses. So we're going to split it apart and put n times n. Again, this is all pluses, so inside our parentheses it's going to be pluses. And we're looking for the factors of 24 that will add up to be 10. Now, 24 has several factors, and so I'm just going to list them over here. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Now, which pair adds up to be 10? 4 and 6. So we're just going to put, and it doesn't matter, by the way, if you got your numbers in different places. Like up here on example 1, if you put x plus 4 first, and then x plus 3, that's perfectly fine. And if you put x plus 6 first, and then, n plus 6, and then put n plus 4, that's perfectly fine. There's no certain order that those numbers have to be in. All right, did those two examples make sense to you? y'all can just reply with a comment of yes or a thumbs up. And then we're going to do some more examples. There's such a long delay on here. Blake sent me a thumbs up. All right, we're going to move on to example 3. That's in the shadow. Let me move it down. Okay, Gabby and Hunter said yes. All right. Now y'all can see I've got several examples, and it all deals with signs. I just wanted to make sure that you understand everything about the signs. That's why there's so many, because basically all these problems are done the same. They're all your answer's gonna always be in 2 parentheses. So in example 3, we have y to the second minus 16y plus 15. Again, always let your eyes jump to that last number and look at the sign in front of it and make your plan. You know that 15 is positive, which means that the signs in here have to be alike. They have to be the same thing to get a positive when you multiply. So they're going to both be whatever that middle sign is, which means they're going to both be minus. So let's go ahead and split our y's apart and put a y in each parentheses. And then we're looking for the numbers that multiply together to give us positive 15, that will add together to be negative 16. Now, on your factors of 15, you only have 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. And then you look at the pair and see which pair can give you that 16. And it's the 1 and the 15. So you're going to have a minus 1 and a minus 15. Now, before you enter those on IXL, because signs sometimes make people miss these, just look at it and ask yourself if these two numbers multiply together to give you that. Negative 1 times negative 15 equals positive 15. And then see if they add together to give you that middle term. Negative 1 plus negative 15 is negative 16. And so that would be correct. Now these last 3 examples, if you'll, well no, example 4 is still a plus. I'm going to give y'all just a second, see if y'all could get this one on your own, and then I'll put the answer down and you can check to see if you got it right. R squared minus 5r plus 6. You don't have to tell me what you got. I just want to give y'all a second to work it and see if you can get the right parentheses. And you should have gotten r minus 3 times r minus 2. Because negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. And negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5. Now all 4 of these examples we've done so far, they've ended in a plus, which means the signs in the parentheses have been the same. These last 2 examples we do, they're going to end in a minus. And to get a negative when you multiply, the signs are going to have to be different. You're going to have one positive and one negative. Alright, so on example 5, let's go ahead and put our 2 parentheses. And we want the first times the first to equal x squared, which we're going to split the x's apart. X times x. And then we want the last times the last to equal negative 17. Now, be careful, and sometimes it helps to write it down 1 times 17. And remember, whenever you add these two factors, they have to give you a negative 16. So to get a negative 16 when you add them, you have to have a negative with the 17. So that means when you put your signs in, you're going to have a positive 1 and a minus 17. So positive 1 times negative 17 gives you negative 17. And positive 1 plus negative 17 gives you negative 16. Okay, I hope that makes sense. We are on our very last example. On this one, we have to get a negative 12 when we multiply. So what I'm going to do is just put my 12 down. And then I'm going to put the factors side by side that will give me 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And then look, and we know that one of the factors in each pair has to be a negative, but I'm not going to put the negative yet until we can look and see what this has to be in the middle. Now, if you don't see a number in the middle, it's understood to be a 1. So that's really a 1x. So you're looking for the pair of factors here that will give you 1 when you add a positive and a negative. And it's the 3 and the 4. And if you want to get a positive 1, then that means your biggest number must be positive. So the 4 has to be positive and the 3 has to be negative. And so that would be x minus 3 and x plus 4. Now remember, it does not matter about the order of the parentheses. You could have had your x plus 4 first, as long as you've got your plus with your 4 and your minus with your 3. It does not matter about the order. Just like on this example 5, your answer could have been x minus 17 times x plus 1. You could have these backwards, as long as the sign is with the right number. Alright, I'm going to pause for a second and let y'all tell me if you understand or if you need me to explain anything else. Do y'all understand this lesson? All of the problems on IXL are just like this. I went through all of them. They don't get any harder. This is your assignment. You are to do IXL Algebra 1 AA4. By the way, I should have all the grades updated in 6th period class. 7th period I'm going to work on as soon as I end this video. Y'all good? You need anything? Oh. Smart score. 80. This would probably be a pretty easy one to get to 100 on. By the way, your grades. I don't know if y'all have noticed. All the grades, the way that we're doing them, if you master it, which means like you get an 80, you're getting 25 points for each IXL. If you'll look at your iNow, it shows that like they're out of 25. And if you get 100 points, then instead of 25, you get 28 points. If you don't master it, keep trying to master it. I'm not putting in any bad grades. I'm only putting in the ones that you master, which means that your grade is starting out as your third 9 weeks grade, whatever that was. And then it's just moving up from there. So, you know, y'all are in a really, really good situation where you could have a really good grade, because we're not giving you bad grades during this time, because there's all kinds of circumstances that kids can't help. So we're not giving y'all any bad grades. So this is just going to take your third week grade and make it go up. So, you know, y'all could all have A's. Just keep working hard. Keep learning. Don't stress out over it if you don't understand something, but just try to learn it. It'll be really good for you to learn all this for your upcoming math classes. And plus, it's going to help your grades just are going to get better and better. All right, y'all take care. I will see you, I guess, live on, well, tomorrow I'll be doing one of those conference calls. So join me in the conference call. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.